Welcome. You have found the show we call Real Men Don't Cry, or Do They? This is a podcast for men, and on this show, we will hear real-life stories from men about how they have navigated the complexities of being a man in this modern day. We are going to look at the boys don't cry way of thinking and how that has influenced them and how they have risen above societal pressures to be true to themselves. The focus of this show is men's real-world experiences, not just ideas and theories. I hope that you will learn from what they have discovered and use it in your life as well. Let's get into today's show. Welcome to another episode of Real Men Don't Cry, or Do They? I'm Brandon Archer, and my guest today is on the other side of the world, which is fantastic, I think. The story he's going to share is going to be quite the adventure. I met him 2.5 years ago, I believe it was. We can riff on that. I want to welcome Aashish Harenja. And I think I still butchered it, even though we tried really hard to get that right.
No, you did. You did well. It's better than hearing Ashish and all the time. Like
Yeah.
guys go, it's a J. It's like not. It's not K.
Yeah.
You can say it out.
Okay, Ashish. I'm so happy you said yes. I was actually nervous asking you. I'm not gonna say I wasn't. I
Why
was
so?
surprised that I don't know why I was nervous. I think I really enjoy your energy. I really enjoy it always seems like you're very peaceful. And I find that powerful. I think that's why. I'm not sure. Okay. Ashish, can you just give a quick 30-second, 60-second who you are, where you are, what you do, and why you're here?
Sure. Well, to everyone who's watching this podcast, I'm Ashish Harenja. I'm in India right now, but I met Brandon when I was in the States 2 years ago, going through some relationship troubles. And I would see Brandon posting on Instagram a lot. I was like, I don't know, I feel like this man is the guy to answer all of my, relationship questions. But then I came in for one set of questions, but our conversations were on everything about life and relationships. And I feel like that's where my new journey kickstarted. So, Ashish Harneja, I used to work in technology back in the United States, was in supply chain, warehousing, and had a different goal in life, but life had, a different outlook for me and got me into a situation where I had to leave everything that I knew in the US and start afresh here in India. So I'm back home, been here for a year, and I've had that opportunity to just explore different interests in life that I wasn't able to do in the US. And right now, I'm not working. I just finished another learning program and graduated as a top fellow in that program. And now I'm like started looking out for, interviews and jobs again. So looking to work in tech, but I'm like doing different things now in tech. Like I want to build my own stuff, and I've been connecting with a lot of interesting people here in India to see how we can contribute to the society here and help India, achieve its potential and become a developed nation. Was that a good
It's
introduction,
fantastic.
Brandon? I'm like, I was put on the
Yeah,
spot.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
haven't
There's
done
no
that in a
wrong.
while, man.
You gave a lot of, I'm like listening. I'm like, oh, I'm just taking it all in because we haven't talked for quite a while. You said that you initially reached out to me for one set of questions, and then it led to another set of questions. Well, first of all, what was the first set of questions?
I mean, I feel like I was just looking for an answer. I mean, what are relationships supposed to be like? Am I doing something wrong? So I was looking out for definite answers when I reached out to you, but then the introduction or the introductory call that we had, it changed that perspective. And I was like, the questions that I had in my mind were like pretty basic. Because at that moment I was like, should I even be dating someone? But then it moved away from should I be dating to okay, how do I approach relationships in general? What does being in a relationship mean as a man? Like, how does a man show up, right? Because I was hearing all of these concepts of polarity, duality, and like in my head, I'm like, I don't understand that. I don't even know what it means. Like, it's not sitting down with me. And I just have my experience, and it's not been great. So how can I, do better? So yeah, moved from that definiteness of seeking a specific answer to just a wide range of questions about life and what it means to be a man first, and how do men show up in relationships, not only with a partner, but also with themselves. Yeah, moving on from the specifics to the breadth, of the subject and life in general. That was a little shift that happened.
Yeah. So that was, 2.5 years ago. What questions are you asking now?
Now it's like the amount of questions I have gone down, but it's because I haven't dated since then. So there's this little fear, like when you were telling me about, like a little thing that puts you off about another person. I'm like, how do I find a person who does not have that little thing that, puts me off? So it's like a lot of knowledge is also not good in some cases.
Yeah.
And and now that I have, a big amount of self-awareness around who I am and what I like, I feel dating has become a lot more harder or complex. So,
Yeah.
my questions of like, is that person still outside? Like, do they exist? And how will I meet them? Or how will I come across them? So it's like how
So
to
you said,
approach dating has become just a little more like, is the person alive?
yeah, okay, interesting. You said something about somebody having that one thing that sets you off or triggers you. What did you mean by that?
So it's like, um, so for example, physique. Let's consider that. It's the first thing that we, see in a person when we meet them and we know nothing about them. I have a specific kind of physique that I like. And India is a little different in that way. Like the women that I liked in the US, India is different, right? The physique's different. And for me, that was my, um, I wouldn't call it an obstacle. I don't have another word in my head right now, but that's been stopping me from approaching women. I'm like, oh, but they don't look like that. Oh, but their figure is not like that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
superficial, right? I don't even know the person. They could be fantastic, but I've just put them in a box without even talking to them or learning about them.
Yeah, what are you going to do about that?
Nothing. Like when I think about it, I'm like I can't do anything about it. So I have to be comfortable with that um, opinion of mine and live with that thought and still go and approach women and then see if anyone clicks with me. I mean, thought process, chemistry, compatibility, all of those things. So yeah, it's like
So
being in my head a lot more.
in the last couple of years, what have you discovered about yourself?
A lot of things. I would say the biggest
What's
one has been self-appreciation because I did not consider my successes or achievements being equivalent to those of people who are already doing amazing things. I mean, people who were with me in my MBA program when I was in Arizona, like I would always consider them to be better or to be ahead of me in life. And I felt like that sort of kept me unhappy as well. And then, like, when I was on Instagram, I was like, oh shit, I'm not there yet. Or I don't have this physique yet. Or, I don't have this life that I want to live. And I don't even know how to get there. But I mean, these 2 years have given me the chance, the space to appreciate what I already have. And it happened after like I lost a lot of things, right? I mean, money, status, job, opportunity to be in the US. Like all of that had to go away for me to start appreciating what I already had in life or things that I did in life. It's like the facade just came off altogether, and you could see like the bare bones of a building and a structure. So that's been a shift that's happened, and I feel it gives me confidence from within versus seeking external validation and understanding that everything's okay.
That's fantastic. That's a huge finding. And I find it interesting, like you had to lose the things you thought were important to realize what was really important. And I've had a
Hmm.
conversation with a few men, and I'd be curious what you think and what you've observed in other people. Do you think something like that has to happen in order for a man to realize, hey, I've got a lot. I have a lot to offer. I'm worthy. I'm appreciate myself the way I am. Do you think we have to hit rock bottom to see that?
That's a good question. And I recently saw a post on Instagram on that question as well. But like my personal opinion is we shouldn't be hitting rock bottom to get to that understanding. It's not required, it's not 100% essential. For some men, it is because it's so far in their head that anything but rock bottom gives them the opportunity to open up and, just surrender and let go. And feel like sadly that's a majority of the men. I would put 75% or more in that bucket who have to hit rock bottom to be able to get hold of themselves and understand themselves more. But I don't think it's completely essential. How about yourself? Like, what are your thoughts?
Man, I have different things on this. So partly why this podcast exists is because I wanted other men to hear what we've gone through and learn from it without having to experience it. And to also realize whatever they're going through, somebody else is too. They just may not talk about it. And when I reflect on my journey, and I mean, you know my story and having a heart attack, that was a wake up call. What I will say before that happened, I think I had a desire to learn. I think I had a desire to um, be better, a different, better version of me. I think what the event does is it makes us pause and be present. So you don't have to have a big event to pause and be present. You just need to learn how to pause and be present. So I think, you know, it seems to be a lot of men are like, something's got to slap them in the face, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that way. So my hope is, by us sharing our stories, somebody's listening, go, oh my God, okay. That very thing Aashish said just like landed and hit me in the heart. And I'm going to work on that. And that's why I
Hmm.
love just having a variety of men, because some story is going to resonate with some man out there. And I think that's
Hmm.
beautiful. So,
It is like you never know who's like listening in, and they just come upon one little piece in the conversation. Like, yeah, that's what I was wanting to hear or listen.
yes, sir. And I think that's what I have learned about men is we are unsure. So we may not ask questions. We may listen to a podcast because we don't have to interact. We can just like absorb information without
Mhm.
having to expose ourselves, without having to get vulnerable. And that's okay. I support that because it's a journey. And when we grow up in a place where men are not encouraged to share, are shamed for having feelings, even though we have tons of feelings, I
Mhm.
understand it's very, very hard to learn about how to be present so that you can, change your life. It's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to
It's
tell anybody, "Oh, you just got to like do these 5 things." And no, if you happen to be
I mean, you can
40,
tell
you've got
people all you want. It's like they still have to do those things, right? The shift from awareness to execution, I think that's where that work lies.
Did you find there was a time on your journey where you had the knowledge, but not the wisdom yet? You couldn't embody what you learned. You couldn't live what you knew in your head.
It's been these 2 years. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't consider 2024 part of it. I would say 2021, June, up until the end of 2023. It was an amazing question you asked because I was actually thinking about it yesterday, going through, the list of questions you had, like about the conversation where we would be focusing on. I was like, in those years, I knew things had to change. And I was like coming across new pieces of information, but I had no idea how to use them. I literally had no understanding of why is it important? How is it going to help me? How is it going to show up in me? What will be different? What will change? Right? And what will be the implications, like the downstream effects of me changing and integrating these new learnings inside of me. So I was very curious about all of those things. So I was even more inside my head now versus, simulating and being in my body and being present. And yeah, I remember being absolutely anxious, annoyed, frustrated at times that, oh, now I know this, but why isn't it coming up by itself? It feels like I'm trying to force, something here. So I've made a lot of mistakes in those months, right? I was like, I started picking up things because I was like, no, yeah, I'm a new man, I can do this. So I remember paying $7,500 for a business course that I eventually never finished because a week into it, I realized, no, this isn't for me. But I've already committed the money. Now I don't know if this will come in useful at some point later in life, but at that point, I feel bad about it. I'm like all of that excitement of learning something new and putting it into practice. I just didn't sit with myself and be like, is this even, me? Does it connect with me, resonate with me, or am I just doing it because now I have all of this knowledge and I want to make use of it? So yeah, it's taken
I love
time
that.
to.
Yeah, it's an important thing. It's an important thing for people to know because we I wish I could remember where I heard this. It kind of doesn't matter, but it is that we always want to change long before we have the ability to change. And that space in between can get very frustrating because you know the thing, you know what you maybe should do, you know what perhaps outcome or behavior you want. Doesn't happen overnight. And I know for me, I beat myself up so badly over that. And I've seen other men do it too. But I can't remember if this happened before, after. It's irrelevant timeline wise. But there came a time when I just surrendered. I'm like, oh, okay, okay. And instead of trying to be where I wanted to be, I slowly was able to want to be where I was currently.
Mhm,
If that makes any sense, because anytime we try to fight where we're at, that's when the anxiety comes up. That's when it's
mhm,
like, for me, that I'm not good enough. I'm like, no, I'm pretty good. Doesn't mean I'm not trying to evolve, but I think for men, I can't speak for women, but we want it so bad and we want
Mm-hmm.
results. And that's not the way this work pans out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you had this experience, but it's like one day you wake up and you're there and you wonder how
Yeah,
you got where you are.
it it happens. I think I'm in that phase now where I started seeing some of those things that I was um trying so hard to be 2 years ago, but I see it coming almost naturally to me now, to the point where I'm a little bit cautious about like, is this still me? Because I
Yeah.
feel different. Like, is this really happening? So I'm in that space now, and but it's true. Like we want it so bad in that moment that we forget where we are and who we are in that space and time. And we just want to be like somewhere else, doing things that we've always wanted to do, or being someone that we've always wanted to be. And a lot of men get caught up, in that conflict.
And there's
And I
nothing
think
there.
that's
There's nothing in that conflict. I think well, I was going to contradict myself, but I can tie this together. I was going to say there's nothing for us in that conflict. That's what I was originally going to say. But now I'm disagreeing with myself because I have a term I use that conflict is the way to deeper intimacy. So that
hmm
conflict we have within ourselves is actually a gateway to deeper intimacy with ourselves.
hmm
And part of that is just like, be okay with where you're at. You kind of, for me, I don't know about you, is like, you got to trust the process. You got to have some faith that these actions you're taking are going to lead somewhere. And I think, again, like us just sharing this story that, guess what, guys? You get on the journey, you wake up one day and you're like, why am I different? Like, why am I calmer in this situation that normally I would be like yelling at somebody? And that's it. You're there. All that work you did is starting to pay off, but it's not a 6-week program. It's not, there's no timeline you can give to it. And for me, that was the trap. Like, okay, end of this year, these things are going to get done. I'm going to act this way. All this stuff's going to be healed. It doesn't work that way.
It does not. And I mean, this reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard of human design.
Mm-hmm.
It's like another modality. And I think that helped me sort of accept this notion of the inner work that we all do, right? That it's not going to show up now, but it'll eventually show up if we give it time and if we surrender ourselves and allow the change to happen naturally. And in human design, I came out as a projector. And projectors are people who have to wait in a world where you're constantly being asked to initiate, to be the first one, to go
Mm-hmm.
out and do things. And that's majority of the people. Right? Like 75% of the world or 70% of the world, according to that modality of human design, they're designed to be doers. I mean, they make things happen. They have that energy to do it. Projectors do not. They're the ones who have to be slow. They're the ones who have to be a little more introspective, wait in the wings until their chance comes, and their chance eventually will come. And I've been like this forever, like ever since I was a kid, but never understood. And I was like, man, people ask me to do things, but that does not land with me. It does not sit with me well until I learned about this side of me, and it gave me an encouragement to be like, okay, Ashish, and I think I can take my foot off the pedal and just wait and relax and ease in to whatever is happening. So I
This
feel
is
like this
so
may.
interesting. So interesting you're bringing this up because for me personally, I watch, other people building a business similar to mine. And then like, I've had some conversations like, well, how'd you do that? 80 hours a week for 3 years. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Mhm.
number one, I don't want to. Number two, every time I try, I burn out very, very quickly. And I think in human design, I was a manifestor projector. So I don't really know enough about it. But what I have learned about, you know, just people and men and masculinity and this drive to go forward, it doesn't look the same for everybody. And that's been a very interesting thing for me because 70, if your number is right, 70% of men are driven by that, like have all this energy and capacity to drive forward really hard. I'm moving forward. It's just at a different pace.
Hmm.
I find it really interesting you've brought this up because it can be confusing for men. It's like, well, if I'm not doing this program where these 100 other guys are like cranking it out and doing this getting these amazing results, I know for me, I question like, well, am I not good enough?
Hmm.
What does that mean about me as a man? Doesn't mean shit.
But that's how the society is programmed meant to be, right? And we feel it every single day, even now, despite having the awareness and the understanding that, hey, not everybody is supposed to be, driving at the speed limit. Some people are meant to go a little slower. I mean, not everybody's in the passing lane on the freeway, right? Some just enjoy being in the middle lane and just love to cruise along the highway. But that can become difficult when there's a goal or two in mind. And there is this artificial timeline in our own heads because we've imagined some things to be there at that time. And if we don't get there, we miss out on that thing versus accomplishing the goal, right?
Yeah, I get it. I really, really do. How have you learned to navigate that?
It's difficult. It's like an everyday thing. I mean, just got to remind myself, yeah, I'm moving in that direction. Now, what is something
Yes.
that can help me um, understand or say to myself that yes, I am in that direction. What are the signs? So it's just being very cognizant of myself and what's happening around me to figure out that, yep, I'm on the right path. I'm not stagnating at one point.
Yeah, I'd say that works for me too. It was funny because I just today was having a mental conversation because I have goals for amount of men I want to help and how I want that to look. And I do take steps daily to make it happen. And I'm getting that much closer all the time. And I have to pause and go, okay, like you're not air quotes there yet, but have I done something today to move me towards that?
Hmm.
Absolutely. And when I look at what I've done in the last 4 years, I've done a lot to move me towards that goal. And as I'm saying this, you know what it makes me think of? We were talking about inner work. You got to have
Hmm.
faith. You just do the process, and
Yes.
all of a sudden you wake up and you're like a different version of yourself. You're like, what's going on here? So I want to
Hmm.
believe the goals thing is the same for the 30% of the men who don't have that. I don't know what you want to call it, that like driving force that's like, gotta go 100 miles an
Hmm.
hour, 7 days a week. Because that's not me. Never
Hmm.
has been. Do
I
you
mean, it's
see, like, with that knowledge, do you look around and see men trying to operate above their capacity?
I see it. I mean, I've seen it in the States and I see it here in India as well. I mean, this is why I have started appreciating being here because now I have context and I also have an understanding of two extremely different cultures and countries and dreams, aspirations of men in both of these places. But they're all conditioned to be the same. It's like we have to go out and do things. And if we don't do things, then, maybe we'll be embarrassed or people won't think that we're good enough or we won't be able to, have a good life. it's like everything comes down to the externalities, right? It's like, oh, am I feeling okay? Am I comfortable doing this? Or is there something off? Those questions never come up. It's always about, "Ah, I got to do this, then I have to achieve this, then I have to be this, and then I have to have this. And then things will be okay." And it never stops. It just keeps going on and on and on.
I read this really interesting book. It's called What Happy People Know. Clinical psychologist that basically says psychology is bullshit. I love this guy. And he's like, we do things all wrong to try to make people, air quotes, better. And he has a very simple strategy, which is focus on the things that you're good at and the things that make you happy
Mhm.
versus the bullshit, versus the things you don't have. And you know what? He has some actual case studies in his book. It's beautiful. It's so simple. And I like simple healing practices. So I embodied it last summer. I had, I think it was 3 things. They were very simple. It's like I enjoy my space, my living space. I enjoy having my son live with me. I can't remember what the third one was. And you know what? It changed everything. Wasn't worried about the goals, wasn't worried about the doing, like you were saying. And
Mhm.
I think it doesn't mean we don't do stuff. It just means we got to take a look at why we're doing it. Or like, are we
Mhm.
trying to chase the happy? You can be happy today, whatever situation we're in. And I want that for the world. I don't want that for just
Mhm.
one person. Like, why are we chasing things? Do you know why? What's your opinion on why? Why are we chasing?
That's a good question. It's like, I feel like that's been the way it's been for a while. Like ever since I grew up, it was always about achieving something in order to be happy. I don't know how it's there with everyone else, but like for me, for example, when I was in school, I always wanted to be out of school, like and just be an adult and be done with school. And the concept was, yeah, when you finish all of your classes, and so in India we have um like the K-12 education system. Once you're in grade 12, which is senior school, it's like I just want to be there. And once I'm at grade 12, I'll be happy. When I was at grade 12, I was miserable. I was like, oh shit, I did not imagine this to be this way. I had like so many exams. I mean, I've picked up subjects that I don't even know why I picked up. I picked them up because my friends were here, or like that's what everybody was doing. So I say, okay, once I clear out my school exams and write entrance exams to get into college, I'll be happy. I do that, get into college. I'm like still miserable. Like when will college end? Right? When will I get out and do a job? So college ends, get a job. Now I'm actually working a job. Like shit, man, this is college was better. Like so it's like, and I feel this is programmed into us by parents, society, elders. You get a certain thing at a certain time, and that will bring you happiness. So for me personally, I think I was chasing the wrong ideals until I started not feeling happy after having all of those things that people said would make me happy. And I didn't. I don't think a lot of men, women feel that way either.
Yeah, I think that's the majority of people. So as you were sharing your story, I'm like, why are parents telling us to do those things when they've been chasing that dream and they're still probably not happy? Isn't that interesting?
It is. And I tell my mom sometimes when it's interesting living with your parents back again in your 30s. It's it's like a normal thing here in India. Nobody looks down
Mhm.
upon you except myself because I got used to a different way of life. Um, but yeah, I had this question to her. I'm like, I mean, she keeps saying, "Oh, get married or get a girlfriend, you'll be happy." I'm like, I can be happy by myself. I have that skill now. I mean, she couldn't understand. So to me, I feel like this gets passed down, right, by generations, and people keep repeating the same thing because they have to say something to their kids
Yeah.
without questioning, why am I even saying this? What are the implications going to be?
You think like men in their 30s, like, did you grow up and internet was a thing the whole time? That's actually me being ignorant. Or do you remember a time when there wasn't internet?
I mean, I do remember I was like practically half my life. I had access to the internet when I turned 18
Okay. So I have a reason to
through,
ask this is, do you think your generation, because I am older than you, are more likely to question all those beliefs because you have access to more information?
I think so. I mean, this is a good question because I won't be able to speak for everyone. It just depends on how people receive all of that new information. Because for me, things, or for my generation here in India, things came gradually, right? Like phones, laptops, internet. It was a very gradual, slow change. So access to that information also happened
Mm,
gradually. It did not happen like all of a sudden, like you were just dumped with information in your head, and now you're like, I don't know what to do with all of these things that I have. So yeah, like the awareness happened gradually, slowly, and I felt it gave me and probably my peers enough time to question the new things as and when they showed up.
well, I mean, you reached out, you had questions, you found me, and you're like, I want to know more about this. Do you think men your age are doing that? Do you think they're like having relationship issues or they're feeling unhappy? Do you think they're going on Google and like, how do I be happy?
Probably, yeah. So, for example, this friend of mine, we were classmates in our MBA program. He reached out to me earlier in the year, and he's like, "Ashish, are you awake?" He's in California, and I'm like, "Yeah, man." I'm like, "Up, it's morning here." He's like, "Oh, I have a question. I wanted to talk to you about something." I'm like, "Sure." And his question was on relationships and how he should approach his relationship. He's a gay black man, and it was before that conversation. We had another conversation a few months ago where he actually told me that, "Hey, Ashish, I'm gay." So it was like, for me, it was pretty interesting to be in that space where somebody was asking me about relationships, and he was pretty open to talk about, his red flags and how things are shaping up. And it's like, what do you think about my situation? But I don't see a lot of men being comfortable enough to ask those questions. I mean, even with their friends, or when they do ask, it's not about asking, it's just like saying, yeah, things are not going well. I don't know what I should be doing. And people around them, they don't even have, the right kind of advice to give. So they just dish out, yeah, man, just be a man and
Yeah.
take care of yourself, or let's drink, things will be okay. But
Or she's just being crazy.
yeah, I mean, that's the regular advice people get, and I see that in my gym all the time because it's just full of a lot of young men. And I'm like, guys, that doesn't work that way. But that's because I have this awareness now. Had it been like 3 years ago, I would probably be dishing out similar advice. So I feel
So
like men have the questions, but they probably do not have the right support, even if it's Google or their friends, their
yeah.
family. They do not have the, I don't know, the right tool or the right solution in front of them, or they're not able to identify that tool. Could be a human being, could be just a website.
Well, I'd like to think it's getting easier because, when I looked for help almost a decade ago, I could not find the kind of help I wanted. Could not find something that felt like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. So, I'm hoping those guys at your gym, I'm hoping they have access to information, good information, more freely now. What do you think is the answer to giving men access to this healing information?
I have, I have my opinion on this. Um, and this is something I've learned through my own follies in the last 2 years. When I was on my journey and I learned all of these amazing things, like I worked with you and I worked with another coach after that on a specific issue. And then when I would work with you guys and I was like full of energy, I'm like, yeah, I know this, I got this. And I have to, you know, speak to my friends about it and give them this information, but never landed with them. Even though I was coming out with good intentions and I wanted to share something that I knew would help them, it just never landed. And they were like, nah, I don't know what you're speaking about. Everything's okay, everything's good in my life. I've got this. So when we talk about awareness, I feel like the important part of the puzzle is that the men themselves should feel ready to be able to receive that information and then take an action. Because a lot of men, I feel, they aren't even ready to receive that information yet because it means opening themselves up to what's not good. It's like acknowledging that this isn't working, this isn't good. Just that acceptance is so difficult. Or coming
Yes.
face to face with something that can trigger a reaction within them, it's challenging and they stay away from just getting that awareness. So even though
Well,
information exists, if they're not ready, they won't do anything about it.
but you actually said, I mean, you said a lot, and I agree with all of it. The one thing was when you tried to share with your friends, the reaction was like, "Oh, I got this," because we're actually conditioned to think that way, and the shame that comes up for men when we realize, "Oh shit, we don't got this," and the shame of like asking for help is a huge barrier.
It is.
And it's funny, kind of circling back to what we talked about is like, why does it look like men need a big traumatic event to like make change? That might be it, is the shame. You got to hit that shame wall. And the shame wall's got to be something that just like blows your life apart. And you realize,
Hmm.
wow, my shame got in the way of me actually fixing all of these things, or addressing. I don't want to say fixing, addressing all these things. That might be it,
That's
my
a really,
friend.
it is. It's like a really powerful way of putting it out. Because I'm like, I have that shame in myself as well. I mean, even now, despite having gone through healing and changing, I feel like the fear is like, for me personally, or what if somebody else gets to know about this side of me, people won't have a good opinion about me,
Yeah,
and maybe
that's why
that
they
shame
say,
stops.
you hear those terms like just, don't give two fucks about what somebody thinks. That's like
Hmm.
impossible. Sorry. We just do until you've like addressed some pretty deep stuff.
Hmm.
We actually do care what other people think for
Hmm.
various reasons. You know what I think? I agree with you that men have to be ready. I also believe that, that friend you were saying that called you up and asked for advice, it's because you're changing. You're the example, you're modeling a new way. And if they've known you long enough, they've like seen you change. And I think that's the other component is we just have to model what we're doing.
Hmm.
We have to have conversations like this so people get curious. Because yeah, there's ways to market to their pain and sell them all the shit they maybe do or don't need. end of the day, like for me, I want to learn from somebody who's walked through the fire.
Hmm.
And you have walked through the fire. I've walked through the fire. And I think we just need to tell people our stories and they can go, what the fuck? I had no idea that somebody else felt that same shame or whatever the story might be.
Hmm.
So I think there's the two pieces to it. We got to speak louder of our experiences. And yes, a man has to be ready and willing.
Hmm. That's a good way of putting it, and it's giving me a lot of confidence as well because the Ashish that reached out to you would not have been comfortable having that chat that I had with my friend, or even sharing my opinion on things,
Or coming on a podcast to talk about it.
or coming on the podcast. Yeah, 2 years ago, I would not have been able to do this podcast at all, or even string together thoughts. I'd be like, yeah, I want to share this, or just share my
Yeah.
story of like losing out a job as well. I feel like that's taken me a while to accept and get over and be comfortable with. And probably men have a lot of such similar stories, not maybe not professional, personal stories that they're finding it hard to accept and overcome, like things that have already happened, but they're still in
Yes.
that denial, like, nah, this isn't happening, things are good. It's like probably this gives them that comfort and energy as well, like, yeah, I can accept this and own this story and move ahead and, seek help.
Yes. Oh man, this chat has been phenomenal. I'm so happy for you and the growth you've had, the experiences you've had, where you're at. I've always enjoyed your energy, but man, you've changed. You've changed, my friend. You feel very steady. And I mean that as a very high compliment to you. I want to end
Thanks, Brandon.
out. Yeah, you're very welcome. I want to end out with two questions for you.
Hmm.
One is, what message do you have for the Ashish that was just coming to America?
I have to think about it a little. But I just one short message if I'd had for him would be like, just let go of your preconceived ideas and enjoy. Because America has been an amazing 6 years, and I came in with a completely different mindset, perspective of the country, the people, everything. But now I just have a totally different view about the country and the people. And it's all good. But yeah, I would just tell Ashish, like, to just let go of your thoughts and be there and enjoy that experience.
Other question is, what message do you have for 50-year-old Ashish?
50-year-old Ashish, a question that I have for him or message.
Message. How about one each? One message, one question.
That's, that's a tough one. Because usually we write from a future self to
I know.
the present self, right? Like this is from the present self to the future self. I think one message for him would be like, hey man, I'm putting in the work right now so that you can enjoy the life that you've always wanted to enjoy, even when you're 50 years old, and we'll get there.
Nice. What question do you have for him?
Question? What do you think about the work? Nah, I think that'll be too basic. This will require some thinking, Brandon. You've put me on the spot. Because
I'm
I
not
never
going
really thought
anywhere.
about this. I'm like, I think one question that I'll have for him is, are you happy being where you are?
Beautiful. Love that one. Ashish, I apologize for taking 2 years to reconnect with you. I really enjoy time with you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes. I think there's so much value in this podcast for men out there.
Hmm.
Thanks for being here.
Same here, man. I should have reached out to you earlier as well. It's like it's
Well,
funny, we have all of these preconceived notions, in our head, and we just wait for the other person to um, initiate a conversation. But I'm glad that um, you replied to that story, and I replied back to you, and this happened.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to talk soon, okay?
Will do, Brandon. Thank you so much
Okay.
for this platform as well.
You bet. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I honestly hope you found something you can use in your life. And I hope you found some relief in knowing that you're not the only one with challenges. We can be very isolated as men. If you don't have support in your life, please reach out to someone. It's okay to need help. It doesn't mean that you're less of a man. In fact, it takes a courageous man to know when it's time to ask for guidance. Until next time, brother.